Hey y'all, it's Rob. This is early, what is it, probably like the second week of April right now, and I'm down here in South Central Texas with Wes and Lee, and we're doing our bug out exercise. This is the exercise where we decided that we would just kind of put into practice some of the things we've talked about and sort of planned for, and just kind of test out some ideas and some gear, and the scenario being to come down ahead of the rest of a group and be our second choice of a place to go. And we're working on some shelter and some fire pit and some kind of longer term living thing as a location would be. But the scenario was that we hiked in and brought some stuff and then got here and found the things that we had cached ahead of time, and that way been able to have enough stuff to deal with life while we began to rebuild. You know, the whole dystopian future, apocalypse nightmare kind of thing. Kind of a fun exercise, but kind of something practical as well. So what I thought I'd do is, right now I thought I'd show you what carried in my pack. Now, we didn't hike the whole 300 miles to get here. I'm sure you're very surprised to find that out. We actually drove part of the way, but we did enough hiking to be able to test out our bags, see how they fit, how they rode, that kind of thing. And you know, give us an idea of the weight factor and the what we have and what we can deal with factor. So we'll start. Of course, we're already in camp here for a couple of days, so I'm going to show you what we've got. You know, basically my sleeping setup that's already come out of my pack. Now, originally, as I wade through the trees here, originally this stuff here was in my pack, and of course that's my hammock and my sleeping bag and that bug net that goes over it. And this is really only the second time I've ever slept in a hammock on a trip. The first time being just a few weeks ago when we got that hammock to come down here and kind of test things out. It's not bad. It takes a little getting used to. It's different than what I'm used to. There's still a few little tweaks and tricks I have to figure out and kind of learn how I'm going to do it. But it's not terrible. It certainly gets you up off the ground. It gets you out of the fire ants. This country down here is full of fire ants. And if you don't know what fire ants are, they are just delightful little creatures. They are always anxious to come over and help with what they can. They're anxious to see if they can help you solve problems, or maybe create a whole lot more problems and get into everything. And even so much as when you dig a fire pit, the next day seems like they sprung up a fire ant metropolis along the edge of it. Not sure what that's all about, but someday somebody smarter than me will figure out a way to maybe control some of that. But it gets you out of the fire ants, gets you up off the ground, out of the bugs. The tarp isn't spread across it right now, and to that point, the tarp that's down there on the ground is the one that I did have stretched over the top, but I took out so that I could do the demonstrations that I'm doing now and kind of lay things out without losing them in the grass. But I'm fixing to upgrade to that tarp there, basically, that green one. It's the same thing as I have already. It's just a newer version of it. It's just a 10 by 10 poly tarp. Not poly tarp, it's a tent material, tent cloth material, probably ripstop nylon, that has tie downs around it and some good seams on it. That tarp there, I bought that one, goodness, I hate to say, probably about 1979 maybe. That's when I got that tarp. It was a Eureka tarp. The new one is a Campmore. As far as I can tell, it's pretty much the same material. The Campmore feels like it's a little bit thicker, but this one I have used, wow, I mean long enough that it's a friend now. It's not just a piece of material, it's a friend. I have camped hundreds and hundreds of nights with that, often being the only thing between me and the elements. I've been rained on, snowed on, stormed on, been through some hellacious storms under that, and it's always served me very well. But a couple of nights ago, we got a pretty significant rain down here. We probably got about 3 or 4 inches of rain, enough to bring the creek up down below us. Down there, you can't really tell it from here, but there's a nice creek down there. It brought that creek up somewhere between 4 and 6 feet. And the tarp did okay. I had some water splash through, but there were some drips and some leaks. And I'm going to upgrade to the newer one that doesn't have any holes in it and maybe no drips and leaks. It wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, but you know, I guess I'm just getting old enough that it's time to time to get something a little bit better. So that's the whole long story about the tarps there. But it's just kind of a weird thing. You know, you had a piece of equipment that many years and done that many things with it, it just becomes a part of you. It does. I won't ever get rid of that one. It will serve some purpose, always kind of be in my equipment. And I don't know. Weird thing. But you can see we've got the line stretched out across the top there to support the bug net. The hammock is self-supporting on either end of it. And then we've got that other line across that the tarp will sit up on too. So that's part of the equipment and gear that I had down in there. That sleeping bag right there, you know, funny thing, I got that sleeping bag at the same time. And it has been a dandy. It's Snow Lion, I think is the brand name of it. But this has just been a tremendous, as I've bounced the camera all over the place. There we go. It's been a tremendous sleeping bag. It was a hollow fill, I believe, was what was, just says polyester fiber. In fact, it may have even been before they called it hollow fill and qualifill and all that. I have been in blizzards with this and that tarp, literally sub-zero temperatures, and got cold a couple of times, but not bad. The zipper has always been a good zipper. First problem I've ever had with the zipper was a couple of nights ago, trying to sleep in the hammock and kicking around. I got it unhinged, or whatever a zipper does, and had to work with that, put it back together in the dark. I could have turned on a light. But so that was the bulk of what was in the pack. That little headlamp right there was in there too. So all of this stuff was folded down into the main compartment of the pack. So let's look at some of the other stuff that's in there real quick. Just kind of a fast and dirty look. We're not going to get real detailed or real technical or anything else. It's just kind of so you see. Now you can see there the boonie hat that I was wearing, kind of a crush hat that keeps me good. And of course I've always got my bandana with me too, but when the sun's out, you're out in it, sometimes that's a nice thing to have. The belt I wore there was just a standard old Army pistol belt with a drop leg holster and my 45, and then a buck 124 knife. Inside the pack also I didn't have that great big rifle, but I did have that little Charter Arms AR-7 takedown. Was kind of down in the bottom there, just the idea being for, you know, small game, that sort of thing. The big rifle I carried slung over my shoulder, well, slung around my shoulders. I think there's a style for it, but I don't know what it's called. That's a PTR 91 chambered in 308 with a Millet 6 to 18 scope on it. That's not a light rifle. That rifle with the full magazine and that scope all together weighs about 14.5 pounds. It's not awful to carry if you've got it slung up like that. Not just trying to carry it free-handed. If you didn't have a sling on it, it would be pretty uncomfortable. But as is, you know, it's manageable. The pack I had on when I had it, I weighed it too. The pack weighed, I think it was 28 pounds. And so, you know, I'm going to say I'm still under 50 pounds doing it that way altogether. So it's not bad, especially for a guy my age. If I can manage that, then I'm doing something right, maybe. Anyway, I'll just drag out the stuff out of that pack right quick and you see what's in there, and we'll be done. So, this is the knife I was talking about, the Buck 124. I've had this knife also an equally long time. Might have a little bit of blood on it right now. Now, in the pack, do the pockets first, I guess. Little solar lantern. I think some of y'all have probably seen this on a couple of videos I've done. A little solar rechargeable lantern that hangs up like that. Makes a great little light. It's not the lightest light in the world, but it's also not terribly heavy. But for the amount of light it makes and the fact that it recharges itself and doesn't need batteries, it was worth the weight consideration. Little piece of braided nylon cord, a silver compass. Also, a lot of this stuff really tells my age, I guess. This is one, I had this one when we hiked the Grand Canyon when I was in the 7th grade. That's been a few years ago. Got a little bit of seasonings for whatever we happen to be eating. Some salt and that kind of thing, garlic. This pocket over here, Got another little solar rechargeable light, same kind of thing. I think if I remember right, this was about 3 ounces, maybe 3.5 ounces. This other light was, I think, 5 ounces. So between the two lights, I'm under a pound. I've got a roll of 550 cord and a thing of matches inside the protective case. They're the good storm matches, but hurricane matches, I'm not sure what they're called. But it has those guys. The little pouch here, I've got a first aid kit. I've got my SHTF socks just for fun, since that's what we were doing. Some miscellaneous little Ziploc bags for different purposes. That's the kind of thing that's always good to have some of in the first aid kit. This is a first aid kit that back when he called himself Panhandle Prepper, he sent me, and I've added a couple of things to it. I've got a few more matches, a Bic lighter, a little thing of antibiotic cream. Something that I consider really important to have in places like this is a couple of pairs of really good tweezers for getting out the tiny small thorns and little stickers that just won't come out. Sometimes those things aren't a huge problem, but they are a huge annoyance. And then also in this, I have a char can. This is a little can for making char cloth. It's got some cotton cloth in there ready to go, a couple of holes punched in it, and then bingo, jingo, you got char to help light a fire with. And then of course this first aid stuff, the pack that was in the original kit here, a mask, some nitrile gloves, some gauze, some band-aids, actually another set of tweezers that somehow I missed those, didn't realize they were in there, and just some different things like that. So not the most comprehensive first aid kit that I've ever put together, but you know, because it was given to me and because it was handy, I threw it in there. Stick this guy back in. I have to tell you too, with everything in here, when I was originally hiking, I looked like I was carrying a pregnant elephant on my back. It just, what this is the Alice pack. I just went blank on the actual designation of it, but it's basically just a standard Army issue, big bodied pack with a good frame and all. Surprisingly comfortable. I've done lots and lots of carrying packs, backpacking, and doing hikes and trips like that. I can honestly say, conservatively, that I have hiked with a pack on my back on trips well over 1,000 miles. I mean, I don't think it would take me long to hit 1,000, thinking of different trips I've done. Some of them, you know, 4 or 5 miles at a time, some of them as much as 50 or more miles at a time. So I'm used to carrying packs, and I did not have high hopes for this one, but it was pretty comfortable. Now, obviously, I didn't have 100 pounds in it, or even 50 pounds in it by itself, but still, for what I had in there and for what I was doing, it was completely comfortable. I wondered maybe if even carrying this pack in the back and this rifle in the front, if maybe that equaled out the load a little bit, and so it wasn't just pulling me over backwards or one way or the other. Maybe, I don't know. In this right here, we've got a little sewing kit, which is pretty handy. I've got some artificial sinew, which is just kind of a nylon thread that can be split down and made even smaller. I've got some needles, just some various sewing things for doing little repairs. Don't often have to have that, but on the times you do, you're pretty glad you do. And then I've got just a bottle of water, nothing fancy in this case, just a plain old liter bottle that is good to carry water in. Speaking of which, you can see how we've come down from a higher elevation. I live at around 4,000 feet in elevation here in Texas, and where we are right now is probably only about 600 to 800 feet elevation. So, cheers. So, down in the main body of the pack, now like I say, it's where everything else lived. A bottle of water that I didn't carry, but I had set there. One of the things I've got, and the other one is up there, these are straps to be able to hang the hammock from in case I needed it. I got this idea from Brett over at Survival Comms. I did a lot of my research on how to sleep in a hammock and what to do from him, so if you get a chance, you might go over, if that's anything you're interested in, go over and check out his channel, see what he's got going on there for that. But it's just, I think he called it I don't remember what he called it. This was a little webbing, and it just makes a sling so you can wrap it around a tree, cinch it up, and then different little spots right there to attach your hammock to make it the length you need. So I had a couple of those. Had a pullover, a hoodie, I think is the right word for it. I have what I had another piece of rope in here. I had some little snicky snacks, a couple little things of food, got a couple of packs of hot chocolate, and then some miscellaneous silverware. There's some plastic silverware, and then a couple of metal spoons for cooking with. I had a couple of something to change into in the evening, a little something comfortable to put on moccasins with some good solid soles on the bottom of them. It's important to take care of your feet, and I haven't done a very good job of that this trip. We got rained on real hard, like I said, that first night we were here, second night, and I walked around in very wet boots. I hiked several miles over the course of a couple of days, and my feet are not very happy with me. So it's been nice to have something like this. Plus Wes actually had a secondary pair of shoes that he wasn't using that he's let me wear, and it's gone a long way towards getting my feet better. See what else we got in here. Of course, got a roll of toilet paper wrapped up. I mean, important stuff, you know. A lot of people think it's not necessary. I'm not one of those people. I like having toilet paper. Got canteen, the quart canteen with the cook cup on the bottom, or in this case I use it as an eating cup. One of the things that I don't, in fact two things that I don't have in here, didn't even think about it, they're over by the fire, is I've got my little quart and a half cooker that I use. It's been another thing that's been my friend for hundreds of miles worth of hiking, that I cook in a little aluminum cook pot with a bail and a lid on the top of it that fits tight. And I've got my aluminum Dutch oven over there. That's kind of an odd thing to carry. It's not something I always carry on a trip, but for the purpose of this trip I figured that would be a good thing to have. And we were able to use it. We've done a lot of cooking with that too. Dutch ovens are nice. Cast iron ones are hard to carry. Aluminum ones are a whole lot easier to carry. I don't know if I've shown y'all that in the past, but if I get a chance, I'll throw it in on another video later. What else here? A couple of cinch straps, big contractor-sized garbage bag for covering up stuff in case we needed to, which I put, in retrospect, probably should have done the other night when it rained, put it over the top of this, but this was under the shelter here, so it wound up doing okay. A little grab bag full of some different things here that I hang. This bag actually pretty much usually hangs right inside the tent with me. I can tuck my glasses right there at night. I've also got a little flashlight in here. I've got, this is kind of a cool thing that I carry a lot of times. This is a buck tool right here, but it's not a knife. It is a sharpening stone / steel. How about that? That's how long I've had this. That's got my driver's license on there from when I was about 20 years old. I didn't realize that till just now. This is a pretty good little, it's not the greatest whetstone, but it will put an edge back on a knife, and the edges of it here make a good steel. And then the idea right here, this part is made so you can take it out and use it like a little wedge to break bones and stuff. It's meant for hunting and that kind of thing. But I've carried it a lot of miles, and it's kind of a handy thing to have. I think it's called the Buck Steelmaster. It's even got a number, 137. How about that? Tuck that back in there. That was in the bottom of this grab bag. And what else did I have? I had a little piece of candy for just in case, and a little bit of chapstick for just in case. So that's that, guys. One thing I brought this time that I don't always bring, this is my Nodge bag. And I've even got the night vision device in here. Just a little night vision binocular. It's a good one. These things, good grief, these things aren't cheap, but this allows me to see into the dark. So if we were out hunting or looking for something at night, I can go around in the pitch black and see that. This is a piece that my wife and I really debated on because of how much money it costs, but we decided that it is kind of a game changer if you're in a situation where you need to be able to see in the dark without everybody knowing that you're seeing them. So brought that just because. Now I've got it all wrapped up in this just to protect it because it is fairly expensive. And then probably the most important thing that I've got in here is my water kit. This is this is how I filter my water and how I do that. Y'all probably seen this one. You know, a lot of different styles of water pumps and filters out there, but this is the one I like. There's the bottle that filter into and hook up to. And without dragging the whole thing out, basically there's an extra filter for it. And then a couple of other things that go with it. But this is just, and I'll do a video about this later too. This is the first, not the first water filter, but this type of water filter, this particular model right here, is the first one that I ever used. Back when I used to do lots of hiking up in the Colorado mountains into the backcountry, we either would find a good spot that looked safe and drink out of the stream, or we would have to stop and boil water, or we would just go thirsty. Going thirsty is not much fun. Boiling water takes a lot of time, and you know, even though we never got sick, I've probably seen that story too, but I've grown up drinking a lot of nasty water, and so I've got a fairly good immune system, but it's still not good to roll the dice on that. So when I came up with this water filter and surprised a friend of mine, my buddy Tom. All right, well, I got rudely interrupted there. Maybe that was a good sign that says shut up, Robert. But to finish out the story, though, I was telling about taking this filter on a trip for the first time and surprising my buddy Tom with it. Had to flip the screen around so I can make sure I'm in the right spot. And was drinking water like crazy the whole time, just drinking everything we had, and he just thought I was nuts because he knew that we didn't do that. You have to ration your water out. But we stopped at our first, what would normally be our water stop, and I pulled this out and pumped us up both full canteens of water so we could drink all we wanted to. Apparently we had more battery problems. Been doing a lot of video, and we've been out here several days, and so I guess not surprising that some of the batteries were getting a little bit low. But that kind of wraps it up, though. That's pretty much what I've got here. That's what we carried. This is how we're doing our exercise. If it's something you thought about doing, would encourage y'all to go out and get outside a little bit, go do something. Find even a little cheap day pack, even if you have to borrow, you know, some kids Aladdin pack or Barbie pack or whatever. Put something in it, go carry it around a little bit, kind of get an idea. Something to think about, and it's good exercise, and it's just good being outside. So we'll call it good right there before I have any more battery issues, and I'll save my battery for a little something else. But just want to encourage y'all to hang in there. Think about what you're going to do if things ever got bad. Appreciate you watching. Look forward to seeing what everybody has to say in the comments. Cheers, y'all.